Hello there, and a very warm welcome to you. It's so lovely to have you join me tonight. Wherever you are in the world, and whatever time it might be for you, I do hope you are settled in comfortably. I'm always so curious to know where you're all watching from, so if you feel inclined, please do leave a quiet comment below. It brings me joy to imagine this story reaching you in your own peaceful corner of the world. Tonight, we are not visiting a battlefield or a king's court. We are going somewhere else. A place of deep, humming magic, of ancient stone and flickering candlelight. We are going to spend a day at Hogwarts Castle. But we will not be a student rushing to class, nor a professor burdened with lessons. We will be something much quieter, much more permanent. We will be a ghost. So, close your eyes, let go of the day you've had, and let us drift together, weightlessly, through the walls and into the life of a spirit bound to the greatest school of witchcraft and wizardry. A ghost does not sleep, not in the way you or I might. There is no gentle slide into dreams, no troubled tossing and turning. For Brother Benedict, the deep night is a long, slow fade into the stone. His consciousness, usually a faint pearlescent glow, thins out until it is almost indistinguishable from the ancient magic that hums within the castle walls. He becomes another layer of memory in a place made of memories. And so, he does not wake up, he simply returns. The day begins not with a sound, not with a light, but with a subtle shift in the very fabric of the castle's reality. It is a change in the ambient energy, a feeling he has come to know over 6 centuries of faithful haunting. Imagine a great silent bell struck once, its vibration felt in the bones rather than heard with the ears. That is the feeling. The deep, dormant velvet black of the night's magic, a magic that is heavy and still, begins to be replaced by something else, a quiet, silvery hum. It is the coolness of pre-dawn magic, a clean, crisp energy that feels like a clean slate, like the castle taking its first, slow, deep breath of the day. He doesn't feel the cold on his non-existent skin, of course. He hasn't felt a chill in centuries. But he remembers it. He perceives it as a quality of the air, a certain sharpness that wasn't there moments before. As this new energy flows through the corridors, the darkness itself begins to change. It is no longer a thick, soupy thing. It grows brittle. And through the magnificent, towering windows of the castle, the first hints of light begin to filter in. He does not see this light as brightness. For him, it is a change in the texture of the air. The darkness becomes less solid. He watches as the gloom thins, allowing the faint outlines of corridors and archways to re-emerge from the black. He can see the dust motes, tiny, forgotten particles of history, begin to dance in the almost light, a silent, swirling ballet for an audience of one. And with this new visibility comes the first sound of movement. It is not the sound of students or professors. It is something far more subtle, a faint, frantic skittering, the rustle of cloth moving at impossible speeds. the house elves have begun their work. From his vantage point, floating a few feet off the floor, he observes them as tiny blurs of focused intent, miniature whirlwinds of domestic magic. They polish the suits of armor, they dust the windowsills, they scrub the flagstones with a fierce, silent dedication. He finds their endless war against dust to be rather amusing. On occasion, one of them will dust through him, a peculiar sensation like a sudden breezy tickle that he has long since grown used to. They are so absorbed in their tasks, so utterly committed to the pristine presentation of the castle that they never notice him. To them, he is simply a pocket of slightly cooler air, a minor atmospheric anomaly to be tidied around. He bears them no ill will. In fact, he holds a quiet, detached admiration for their work ethic, even if he does think it's all a bit much. After all, what is a castle without a little historic dust? As the house elves continue their frantic, silent work, the second sign of the castle's awakening makes itself known. It is a sound, a long, low, metallic groan that echoes down the corridor from the direction of the grand staircase. Brother Benedict knows this sound well. It is Sir Reginald the Resplendent, or at least the suit of armor that once belonged to him, performing its morning stretch. Over the centuries, Benedict has come to recognize the distinct personalities of the various suits of armor. Sir Reginald is always the first to wake up, and his groan is always the same. A deep, complaining sound, a chorus of protesting rivets and scraping plates, as if inconvenienced by the very prospect of another day of standing still. Benedict offers a silent, amused greeting to the suit of armor. He has seen the real Sir Reginald storm through these halls, a loud, blustering, and rather clumsy man. The armor's groan, he thinks, is a fairly accurate tribute to the man who once wore it. Soon, other suits of armor will join in, a scattered orchestra of metallic sighs and groans. This is the castle breathing, stretching its old iron limbs. Benedict begins to move, not by walking, but by a simple act of will. He thinks of the great hall, and he begins to drift, a slow, weightless glide through the ancient stone. The walls offer no resistance. To him, they are as permeable as smoke. He is a part of the castle's very soul, a permanent fixture, as much a feature of the architecture as a gargoyle or a hidden passageway. He disturbs nothing. The dust motes swirl around him but are not displaced. He makes no sound. He is the perfect observer, a silent witness to the castle's most private morning rituals. The silvery magic continues to hum. The light continues to texturize the air. The house elves continue to skitter, and the armor continues to groan. This is the castle's secret, silent symphony, the quiet, methodical process of it breathing itself awake. And Brother Benedict is, as he has been for 600 years, its first and only audience. Leaving the quiet, stretching suits of armor to their metallic morning groans, Brother Benedict decides on his destination, the Great Hall. The thought solidifies in his consciousness, and his form, a pearlescent, slightly translucent echo of a 14th century monk, begins to move. For a ghost, travel is an act of pure intention. He does not push off the ground. He does not put one foot in front of the other. He simply drifts. It is a slow, graceful, and utterly silent propulsion, the physical world parting before him like water around a smooth stone. He glides from his customary alcove near the library, a spot he favors for its deep, comforting silence and the lingering intellectual energy of the books. He passes through a thick granite wall, and the sensation is not one of impact or resistance. It is a brief, cool whisper, a momentary mingling of his ethereal form with the ancient, solid magic of the stone. For a fraction of a second, he is part of the wall, and the wall is part of him. He can feel the centuries of cold that have seeped into its core, the faint, thrumming memory of the powerful charms that hold it together. Then he is through, emerging into the corridor on the other side, leaving the wall entirely undisturbed. He has performed this act countless times, yet he still finds a quiet, simple pleasure in it. It is the ultimate freedom, a complete disregard for the clumsy, restrictive laws of physics that govern the living. He continues his solitary drift, a silent, personal pilgrimage through the waking castle. He floats past portraits whose painted occupants are still snoring softly in their gilded frames, their little painted chests rising and falling in perfect rhythmic unison. He passes classrooms that are still dark and empty, filled with the faint, lingering scent of yesterday's lessons, the chalky memory of transfiguration, the slightly acrid echo of a potion's mishap. The journey is a peaceful one, a slow, meandering tour of his eternal home. And then he arrives. He passes through the final great oak door, or rather, through the space where the door is, and finds himself in the great hall. In this pre-dawn hour, the vast chamber is a place of profound and breathtaking stillness. The 4 long house tables, which will soon be teeming with the noisy, colorful chaos of 1,000 students, are now long, dark, polished rivers of wood, stretching into the gloom. The air is cool and cavernous, and the only sounds that truly belong to the hall itself. He watches, entranced, as the enchanted ceiling performs its slow, magnificent transition. The deep, star-dusted velvet of the deep night begins to soften at the edges, the pinprick stars fading one by one. The black gives way to a deep, royal purple, then to a soft, misty lavender, and finally to the pale, watery gray of a Scottish dawn. It is a silent, celestial masterpiece that he has witnessed hundreds of thousands of times, and its gentle, reliable beauty never fails to soothe his spectral soul. Below this celestial canvas, another, more intimate magic is taking place. The candles begin to ignite. It does not happen all at once. It starts with a single, small flame flickering into existence high above the staff table. Then another joins it, and another, and another. A chain reaction of light that spreads across the ceiling like a whispered secret. Soon, thousands of candles are burning, their warm, gentle light pushing back the last of the gloom, casting a soft, golden glow upon the polished tables and stone floor. They float serenely in the air, a constellation of man-made stars, their light reflecting in the polished silver goblets that the house elves are now meticulously arranging. The house elves. They are the only other occupants of the hall, and they move with a frantic, purposeful grace. He observes one small elf polishing the Gryffindor table with a soft cloth, his movements so fast they are a blur, his face a mask of intense concentration. He sees another pair working together to levitate enormous platters of porridge and kippers from the kitchens, their tiny brows furrowed with the effort of the powerful magic. They work in a self-imposed silence, a testament to their desire to remain unseen, unheard. To Brother Benedict, they are a fundamental part of the hall's morning ritual, as essential and as overlooked as the enchanted ceiling itself. He feels a quiet kinship with them, these fellow invisible residents who work so tirelessly to maintain the illusion of effortless magic for the castle's more prominent inhabitants. He drifts slowly down the length of the hall, his form a faint, shimmering disturbance in the candle-lit air. He cannot smell, not anymore. The part of his soul that was tied to such earthly biological functions has long since faded. But he remembers. As he floats past the empty platters, his memory conjures up the rich, savory scent of sizzling bacon, the comforting aroma of warm toast, the sweet, earthy smell of brewing tea. The memory is so vivid, so deeply ingrained from his own mortal life, that for a fleeting moment it feels almost real. It is not a painful sensation, it is a wistful one, a gentle, ghostly echo of a pleasure he can no longer experience. It is a quiet reminder of what he has lost, but also of what he once had. He comes to a stop at the head of the hall, near the great empty staff table. He floats before the headmaster's chair, a magnificent, throne-like seat of carved oak. He has seen so many occupants in that chair. He recalls the stern, hawk-nosed Albus Dumbledore, his eyes always twinkling with a secret knowledge. He remembers the bumbling, good-natured Armando Dippet before him. He even has faint, fragmented memories of Phineas Nigellus Black, his disdainful sneer a permanent fixture on his face. They have all sat here, all wielded their power and influence, and they have all eventually moved on, their portraits now hanging silently on the walls. He is the one who remains. He drifts along the length of the table, observing the other empty chairs. He remembers a younger, more flustered Professor McGonagall, her hair not yet touched by gray. He recalls the booming, jovial laugh of Professor Sprout. He even remembers the series of fleeting, often comically inept, defense against the dark arts teachers who have passed through these halls like mayflies in a storm. He is the repository of these small, forgotten moments, the silent guardian of the castle's staff room gossip. He is a living archive, his memory a library far more extensive than the one he used to curate. And as he hangs there, a silent, lonely spectator in the vast, beautiful, and empty hall, he feels a profound sense of peace. This is his favorite time, the quiet before the storm, the moment of pure, unadulterated potential before the day truly begins. It is a moment of pure Hogwarts, a moment that belongs only to the castle and to him. The peace is shattered, as it always is, by the groaning of the great oak doors at the far end of the hall. The sound echoes in the vast space, a signal that the castle's quiet, private time is over. Brother Benedict has just enough time to drift upwards, ascending towards the enchanted ceiling until he is floating gently alongside the highest, most serene of the hovering candles. From this high vantage point, he has the perfect view. The doors swing open and the students pour in. From the ground, it would be a chaotic, noisy rush, a cacophony of chattering voices, clattering bags, and shuffling feet. But from up here, from his detached, ethereal perspective, it is something else entirely. It is a river, a vibrant, flowing river of life, pouring into the basin of the great hall. The 4 house colors create distinct currents within this river. The bold, rushing scarlet and gold of the Gryffindors, the steady, deep blue and bronze of the Ravenclaws, the cheerful, meandering yellow and black of the Hufflepuffs, and the sleek, eddying green and silver of the Slytherins. They flow towards their respective tables, a beautiful, swirling confluence of youthful energy. As a ghost, he does not hear the noise in the same way the living do. The sound does not enter his non-existent ears. Instead, he feels it as a great, rolling wave of psychic energy. He feels the bright, sharp sparks of excitement from the younger students, eager for their first lessons of the day. He feels the low, heavy hum of tiredness from the older students, who were likely up late studying, or more probably perfecting a hex. He feels the prickly, anxious static of forgotten homework and impending exams. And beneath it all, he feels the simple, powerful, communal hunger. These waves of emotion wash over him, through him. They do not harm him or affect him deeply, but he registers them, like a sensitive instrument measuring the shifting tides of the hall's emotional climate. It is a vibrant, overwhelming, and strangely beautiful sensation. He is a rock in the center of this river, letting the currents of life flow past him, a silent, constant observer of their ceaseless ebb and flow. From his high perch, Brother Benedict becomes a connoisseur of tiny, insignificant details, the small, fleeting moments that make up the true life of the castle. He focuses his attention on the Hufflepuff table, a place he has always found to be the most dependably pleasant. He watches a first year, his face a mask of nervous concentration, as he attempts to pour himself a glass of pumpkin juice. The pitcher is heavy, his hands are small, and in a moment of predictable but no less endearing clumsiness, he overshoots the goblet, creating a small, bright orange puddle on the polished wood. The boy's face flushes with a deep, mortified crimson. Benedict feels a faint, gentle wave of his embarrassment. But then, an older Hufflepuff student beside him simply taps the puddle with her wand, mutters a quiet, practiced cleaning charm, and the mess vanishes as if it never existed. She gives the first year a small, reassuring smile. Benedict feels the boy's relief, a warm, grateful glow that momentarily brightens the psychic atmosphere. This small, quiet act of kindness, this simple, everyday magic, is far more interesting to him than any grand display of power. He lets his gaze drift over to the Ravenclaw table. Here, the energy is different, more focused, more intense. He spots a 7th-year girl who has not even bothered to put food on her plate yet. Instead, she is already deep in a massive leather-bound textbook, her brow furrowed in concentration, her toast lying forgotten beside her. He can feel the sharp, focused energy radiating from her, a powerful beam of intellectual curiosity. He silently wishes her well on her upcoming NEWTs. He has seen her in the library many times, and he admires her dedication. It reminds him of his own youth, a time when the pursuit of knowledge was the most exciting adventure imaginable. A great, fluttering shadow passes over the tables, and Benedict looks up to see the arrival of the morning post. Hundreds of owls, a magnificent feathered torrent of screech owls, barn owls, tawny owls, and great horned owls swoop through the hall. They are a marvel of navigation, each one effortlessly locating its intended recipient amongst the sea of students. He watches as they drop letters and parcels, a gentle, chaotic rain of news from home and packages from Dagon Alley. A Gryffindor boy receives a long, red, fuming envelope, and Benedict feels a wave of pure, unadulterated dread emanate from him. A howler. Benedict mentally wishes the boy luck. He has witnessed the explosive, humiliating results of those dreadful things many times before. Another student receives a lumpy package that begins to wiggle and smoke, and he has to quickly douse it in his goblet of water. Benedict finds the whole affair to be a wonderfully chaotic and entertaining spectacle. As the river of students settles into a more placid lake of eating and socializing, Benedict turns his attention to his own kind. The other ghosts of Hogwarts have also made their morning appearance. He sees nearly headless Nick, Sir Nicholas de Mimsy Porpington, gliding along the Gryffindor table, his head wobbling precariously on its ruff. He is in his element, regaling a group of adoring first-years with tales of his heroic, if slightly embellished, exploits. Sir Nicholas thrives on attention, and the morning rush is his prime time. Brother Benedict, a far more reserved spirit, gives him a slow, translucent nod from across the hall. Sir Nicholas, ever the courtly gentleman, sees the gesture and returns it with a flourish, his head threatening to detach completely. They are colleagues in this eternal, ethereal existence, and they maintain a polite, professional distance. Then Benedict feels it, a sudden, localized drop in the hall's temperature, a cold spot that drifts through the air, causing the candle flames to flicker and die as it passes. The students shiver and pull their cloaks tighter, an unconscious reaction to a presence they can feel but not always see. It is the bloody Baron, making his silent, menacing way to the Slytherin table. He glides with a heavy, sorrowful purpose, his vacant eyes staring straight ahead, his chains rattling with a sound that seems to exist only in the soul. The silver bloodstains on his spectral form seem to gleam with a fresh, wet horror in the candlelight. Brother Benedict, like all the other ghosts, instinctively avoids his path. He drifts higher, putting a few more floating candles between himself and the Baron's chilling aura. To pass through the Baron is an experience no ghost seeks. It is to be touched by a deep, ancient, and unending despair, a coldness that clings to your very essence for hours afterwards. It is the closest a ghost can come to feeling pain. The Baron settles at the Slytherin table, not speaking, not interacting, simply existing, a monument of silent, eternal torment. His presence casts a literal and figurative chill over that end of the hall. This is the unspoken hierarchy of the spirits. Sir Nicholas is the cheerful socialite. The Grey Lady is the quiet recluse. The Fat Friar is the jovial bon vivant. And the Bloody Baron is the fearsome, untouchable patriarch. And Brother Benedict? He is the observer, the archivist, the quiet librarian, content to watch the great flowing river of life from a safe, silent distance. As the last of the breakfast plates are magically cleared, and the great river of students begins to flow back out of the great hall, Brother Benedict descends from his high perch. The frantic energy of the morning rush gives way to the more purposeful, directed hum of students heading to their first classes. While they are bound by the solid realities of stone floors and wooden doors, Benedict is not. This is his time to explore his true domain, the corridors in between. These interstitial spaces, the vast labyrinthine network of hallways, passages, and secret routes that artery through the castle, are where he feels most at home. He does not need to follow the bustling crowds. He can take his own, more serene path. He drifts away from the main thoroughfare, taking a shortcut through a tapestry depicting the rather foolish crusade of Sir Cadogan. For a living person, the tapestry is a solid wall of woven thread. For Benedict, it is merely a suggestion, a faint, colorful haze that he passes through with ease. He emerges into a quieter, less traveled corridor on the 5th floor, a place of peaceful, dusty silence. This is the mundane magic of the castle, the magic that is so deeply embedded in its very bones that most of its inhabitants take it completely for granted. Benedict, however, has had 6 centuries to appreciate its subtle artistry. He loves the way the light from a high window will catch the enchanted frost on a pane of glass, casting dancing, crystalline patterns on the opposite wall. He enjoys the quiet, grumbling arguments between 2 suits of armor who have been standing next to each other since the Battle of Hastings and have finally run out of things to talk about. He appreciates the small, almost imperceptible spells that keep the castle clean, warm, and in a constant state of semi-respectable repair. This is the castle's soul, and these corridors are its veins. His favorite spectacle, the one he never tires of observing, is the grand staircase. He has no need of it himself. Why climb when you can simply float? But he finds its beautiful, complex, and utterly whimsical dance to be a source of endless fascination. He drifts into the vast open space of the stairwell, a towering atrium filled with 100 moving staircases, crisscrossing each other in a magnificent, ever-changing Escheresque landscape. He watches as a flight of stairs leading to the divination classroom majestically sweeps away from the landing just as a group of third years approaches it. He feels their collective sigh of frustration, a small, harmless puff of annoyance in the grand scheme of things. A moment later, another staircase, this one heading towards the charms corridor, glides smoothly into place, and the students, their moods instantly lifted, hop on and are carried away. He sees this a wonderful metaphor for life itself, a journey of unexpected detours, frustrating delays, and happy serendipitous connections. He loves to watch the first years navigate this architectural puzzle. He sees them standing in wide-eyed confusion, clutching their maps, trying to reconcile the logical, two-dimensional drawing in their hands with the chaotic, three-dimensional reality before them. He witnesses their small triumphs, the moment of pure, unadulterated joy when they finally manage to catch the correct staircase to the right landing. He also sees their minor tribulations, the small comical tragedies of hopping onto a staircase that decides to take them to the dungeons instead of the library. He finds their struggles and successes to be a charming, recurring play that he has been watching for generations. It is a performance that never gets old. His other great passion, the other residents of these in-between spaces, are the portraits. The castle is lined with hundreds of them, a painted gallery of witches and wizards from throughout history. For the students, they are mostly just moving, talking decorations. For Brother Benedict, they are his neighbors. They are his oldest, quietest, and most reliably gossipy friends. He has known them for centuries. He drifts slowly down a long portrait-lined corridor, engaging in his usual one-sided conversations. He floats before the portrait of a portly, red-faced wizard named Sir Barnaby the Baffled. Sir Barnaby is perpetually confused, his painted eyes wide with a permanent lack of understanding. He is usually trying to figure out how a self-peeling potato works. It is magic, Sir Barnaby thinks, sending the gentle, silent thought towards the portrait. Simply magic. Sir Barnaby, of course, does not hear him, but he seems to nod in befuddled agreement before returning to his eternal contemplation of the potato. Further down, he passes the portrait of a stern-looking witch with a very sour expression, Dame Elspeth the Judgmental. Her painted eyes follow the students as they pass, and she offers a constant stream of sotto-voce criticism about their posture, their hairstyles, and their general lack of decorum. Benedict finds her endlessly amusing. He knows her life story. She was a notoriously strict governess in the 16th century, and her transition into a two-dimensional existence has done little to sweeten her disposition. The portraits have a rich social life of their own, a secret world that most students are too busy to notice. Benedict watches as Sir Cadogan, his chest puffed out with valor, leaves his own frame to visit the portrait of a damsel in distress 3 paintings down the hall, eager to rescue her from her perpetually bored-looking dragon. He sees 2 witches from the 18th century leaning out of their frames, their heads close together, whispering the latest gossip they have overheard from passing students. Their painted mouths move, but their words are lost to the air, a silent, intriguing soap opera. Sometimes he finds a portrait whose occupant is simply not at home. The frame is empty, a painted chair and a landscape backdrop waiting patiently for their owner to return from a visit to another painting, perhaps in another wing of the castle entirely. Others are simply asleep, their painted heads slumped onto their chests, emitting tiny, silent, painted snores. Benedict is the silent keeper of their secrets, the archivist of their small, contained lives. He knows who is feuding with whom, who is secretly in love with the knight in the neighboring frame, and who has the best recipe for a canary cream, a secret they have been guarding since 1742. He is the quiet confidant of this silent, painted community. He is not lonely. How could he be? The corridors are his domain, the staircases are his theater, and the portraits are his eternal, unchanging companions. He is surrounded by the constant, gentle hum of the castle's most mundane magic. And for a quiet, observant spirit like Brother Benedict, it is a perfectly contented existence. He is a ghost in the machine, a silent witness to the beautiful, complex, and often rather silly inner workings of his beloved, eternal home. And as the last of the students find their way to their classrooms and a temporary quiet descends upon the hallways, he drifts on, ready to see what other small, forgotten wonders the castle has to show him today. After his leisurely tour of the corridors and a quiet, one-sided chat with a particularly pompous-looking wizard in a portrait, Brother Benedict feels a familiar, gentle pull. It is a yearning for a specific kind of silence, a specific quality of air. It is the call of home. He drifts towards a tall, arched doorway, its ancient oak frame covered in intricate carvings of owls and open books. He does not need the door, of course, but he waits for a fourth year to open it, enjoying the small, familiar creak of the old iron hinges. He follows the student inside, passing through the stern, hawk-like presence of the librarian, Madame Pince, who does not notice his entry. He has entered the Hogwarts library. The moment he crosses the threshold, the atmosphere changes completely. The ambient, humming magic of the corridors gives way to something far more dense, more focused, and infinitely more peaceful. If the rest of the castle is a flowing river, the library is a deep, still, silent lake. The air here is thick with a presence all its own. He can't smell it, not in the way he once could, but the memory is so powerful, so deeply etched into his very being, that it is almost a physical sensation. It is the scent of 1,000,000 pages of old dry parchment and vellum. It is the rich, comforting aroma of aging leather bindings. It is the faint, sharp, acidic tang of old ink. And woven through it all is the unique, almost electric scent of concentrated knowledge, the low, humming energy of countless thoughts, ideas, and spells, all patiently waiting to be discovered. This, for him, is the sweetest perfume in the world. This is his sanctuary, his true and eternal home. He was a librarian in his mortal life, a quiet, scholarly monk who found more joy in the company of books than in the company of people. His death, a peaceful fading away in a small alcove right here in this very library, was less of a departure and more of a final, permanent integration. He did not leave the library, he simply became a part of its atmosphere. He begins his slow, methodical patrol, drifting silently between the towering shelves that reach up into the vaulted, shadowy ceiling. The shelves are packed tight with tens of thousands of books, a vast, silent army of knowledge standing at attention. He knows them all. He knows their histories, their contents, their secrets. He can no longer read them in a physical sense. He cannot turn their brittle pages with his spectral fingers or trace the lines of elegant handwritten script, but he can feel them. For Brother Benedict, every book has an aura, a distinct energy that emanates from its pages. As he glides past a row of charms textbooks, he can feel a light, fizzy, cheerful energy, a warmth like a freshly cast warming charm. He drifts by the potions section, and the air grows heavy with a more complex energy, a dense, layered feeling of precise measurements, simmering cauldrons, and the dangerous potential of a mismeasured ingredient. The herbology section radiates a green, earthy, life-filled energy, while the transfiguration aisle hums with a sharp, intellectual power, the feeling of matter being fundamentally reconsidered and reshaped. He has a unique and profound connection to these books. He can sense the stories bound within their pages. He can sense the powerful spells sleeping silently inside. He is not just haunting a library, he is living within a great collective consciousness, a silent conversation partner to centuries of accumulated wisdom. His favorite and most unsettling section to visit is, of course, the restricted section. It is cordoned off by a simple velvet rope, a comically mundane barrier for the powerful and dangerous knowledge that lies beyond. Madame Pince guards it with the ferocity of a dragon, but the rope and her stern glare are no obstacle for Brother Benedict. He drifts through the rope, and the air immediately grows colder, thicker. The low, pleasant hum of the main library is replaced here by a dissonant, uneasy silence. The magic in these books is different. It is not the clean academic magic of the other sections. It is dark, restless, and hungry. As he floats past a tall, iron-bound tome with a sinister-looking clasp, he can feel a malevolent, whispering energy coiling within its pages, a dark intelligence that seems to press against its bindings, desperate to get out. He senses the raw, chaotic power of books on Horcruxes, the chilling, soul-twisting logic of books on the most forbidden of curses. He does not fear these books. He has been their silent, incorporeal jailer for too long. But he feels a deep, profound sadness for them. They are knowledge that has been twisted, wisdom that has been corrupted. He spends only a few moments here before retreating back into the relative warmth and sanity of the main library. Back in the main hall, students are scattered amongst the long, polished tables, their heads bent in study. This is the other great joy of his existence, watching the spark of understanding being passed from the page to the mind. He becomes the silent, unseen patron saint of study. He drifts over to a table where a young Ravenclaw girl is muttering to herself, her brow furrowed in frustration over a complex potion recipe. He watches as she reads the passage over and over again, her lips moving silently. He can feel the chaotic, tangled energy of her confusion. Then, suddenly, something clicks. Her eyes go wide, a small gasp escapes her lips, and a wave of pure, triumphant, intellectual joy washes over him. "Of course," she whispers to herself, "the powdered bicorn horn must be added before the boonslang skin." He feels a quiet, paternal pride in her discovery. He floats over to another table where a fifth-year Hufflepuff is slumped over a long, unfinished charms essay on the principles of the summoning charm. The boy is clearly struggling. He is doodling pictures of bludgers in the margins of his parchment, his energy a thick, gray cloud of procrastination and despair. Benedict hovers near him for a moment, a silent, encouraging presence. He cannot help the boy directly, but he can offer his quiet, spectral support. He watches as the boy lets out a great, dramatic sigh, dips his quill back in the inkpot, and grudgingly writes another sentence. It is a small victory, but a victory nonetheless. He sees it all. He sees the secret notes being passed under the tables. He sees the students who have cleverly transfigured their quills into self-writing instruments, though their essays often lack a certain creative flair. He sees the quiet, unspoken romances that blossom over shared textbooks. He is the guardian of these small, quiet, academic moments. The library is his stage, and the earnest, struggling, occasionally brilliant students are his players. The bell rings somewhere in the castle, its sound muffled and distant in this sanctuary of silence. The students begin to pack their bags, their time in his sanctuary at an end. As they leave, the energy of the room shifts once more, returning to its natural state of deep, humming, peaceful quiet. Brother Benedict is alone again, surrounded by his oldest and truest friends, the books. He drifts back to his favorite alcove, a peaceful, dusty corner in the ancient runes section, and he settles in, ready to absorb the silence, to commune with the sleeping knowledge, and to wait for the next wave of young, eager minds to come and seek refuge in his eternal, silent home. After spending a peaceful hour or so basking in the quiet, intellectual glow of the library, Brother Benedict feels a faint stirring of, well, not boredom exactly. A ghost is incapable of such a restless, earthly emotion. Let us call it a desire for a change of scenery, a new texture of magic to observe. He has felt the concentrated, sleeping magic of the books. Now he feels a mild curiosity to witness magic in its active, nascent state. He decides to perform one of his favorite pastimes, a weightless audit. He thinks of the charms classroom, a place he has always found to be dependably cheerful, and he begins his slow, silent drift, passing through the library's solid oak doors and into the bustling corridor beyond. He follows a small group of first-year Hufflepuffs who are chattering excitedly, their small forms practically vibrating with a mixture of nervousness and anticipation. They are, he deduces from their conversation, on their way to their very first charms lesson. Benedict smiles a faint spectral smile. The first charms lesson is always a delightful spectacle of misplaced enthusiasm and spectacular, if harmless, failure. He follows them into the classroom, a bright, airy room with high arched windows that look out over the school grounds. He floats unnoticed to the back of the room, settling in a corner near the ceiling, a silent, unseen observer. The students take their seats, their eyes wide with wonder as they take in their surroundings. And then Professor Phileas Flitwick makes his entrance. A tiny wizard with a shock of white hair, he stands on a large pile of books to see over his desk, his demeanor radiating a cheerful, infectious energy. He greets the class with a warm, high-pitched voice, and Benedict feels a wave of pure, unadulterated enthusiasm wash over the room. Professor Flitwick is, in Benedict's long and considered opinion, one of the finest educators the castle has ever known. His passion for his subject is a tangible thing, a bright, warm glow that seems to emanate from his very being. Today's lesson, as Benedict suspected it would be, is the levitation charm, Wingardium Leviosa, the most fundamental, the most iconic, the most frequently mispronounced spell in the entire magical curriculum. Professor Flitwick begins by explaining the theory, his small hands gesturing gracefully as he describes the importance of wrist movement and clear enunciation. The students listen with rapt attention, their faces a gallery of intense concentration. Then comes the practical portion. Each student has a single, downy white feather on the desk in front of them. Now, don't forget that lovely wrist movement we've been practicing, chirps Professor Flitwick. The swish and flick, everyone. This is the part that fascinates Brother Benedict. As a ghost, he perceives magic in a way that is fundamentally different from the living. He does not simply see the result, the levitating feather. He feels the entire process. As the students begin to wave their wands, the air in the room becomes thick with their attempts. Each swish and flick is for him a distinct event. He feels a small, sharp prickle in the atmosphere, the feeling of a young witch or wizard gathering their magical intent, focusing their will through the wooden conduit of their wand. It is a feeling like a tiny pinprick of static electricity on the air. Most of these initial attempts are, of course, failures. He feels the prickle of intent, but it is followed by a disappointing, fizzling sensation, a feeling like a damp firework failing to ignite. The magic sputters, goes nowhere, and dissipates into the general hum of the classroom. He sees a Gryffindor boy shouting, "Wingardium Leviosa!" with far too much emphasis on the R, nearly poking his neighbor's eye out in the process. The boy's feather does not move, but Benedict feels a small, chaotic burst of unfocused energy that causes a nearby inkpot to wobble dangerously. He sees another student swishing his wand with far too much enthusiasm, as if trying to swat a fly, his magical intent scattering in a dozen different directions. Then it happens. A quiet, studious-looking Ravenclaw girl at the front of the class, her face a mask of serene concentration, performs the charm. Wingardium Leviosa, she says, her voice clear and confident. She executes a perfect, graceful swish and flick, and Benedict feels it. The initial prickle of magical intent is sharp, clear, and perfectly focused. And it is followed by a beautiful, satisfying, warm glow. It is a feeling like a small, personal sunrise occurring in the air right above her desk. It is the feeling of a spell being born, of intention and magic aligning perfectly. And as he feels this warm glow, he watches as her feather trembles for a moment, and then, with an impossible, elegant grace, it lifts from the surface of the desk. It rises a few inches, then a foot, hovering in the air as if suspended by an invisible thread. The girl lets out a small, delighted gasp, and a wave of pure, unadulterated joy radiates from her, a feeling so bright and powerful that it makes Benedict's own spectral form seem to shimmer just a little. Professor Flitwick claps his tiny hands together in delight. "Oh, well done," he squeaks. "Everyone see here, Miss Prendergast has done it." This first success seems to break a barrier in the room. Inspired by her achievement, the other students redouble their efforts. Another feather wobbles and lifts, then another. The air becomes filled with these small, warm glows of successful magic, a constellation of minor triumphs. Of course, there are still plenty of failures. A Hufflepuff boy accidentally sets his feather on fire with a small, unintended incendiary charm, requiring a quick, practiced flick of Professor Flitwick's wand to extinguish it. A Slytherin student, in his frustration, manages to send his feather shooting across the room like a tiny, harmless arrow. Benedict finds the failures just as interesting as the successes. Each one is a unique flavor of misapplied magic, a small, chaotic story of its own. But what truly captivates him is not the wonder of the levitating feathers themselves. He has seen far grander and more impressive displays of magic in his 6 centuries of haunting. What he finds so beautiful, so utterly compelling, is the human element. He focuses on the intense, hopeful concentration on a child's face as they try to master their first real piece of magic. He appreciates the infinite, cheerful patience of Professor Flitwick, who offers encouragement and gentle correction with the same unwavering enthusiasm for the 100th time as he did for the first. And he finds a deep, profound beauty in the simple physics of the moment. The sight of a fragile, downy feather, an object of almost no weight or significance, defying the fundamental laws of gravity, lifted up not by an engine or a string, but by the focused will and belief of a child. This, to him, is the true magic of Hogwarts. It is not in the great epic battles or the powerful world-altering spells. It is here, in this bright, cheerful classroom, in the small, warm glow of a perfectly executed levitation charm, and in the look of pure, unadulterated wonder on a young student's face. As the class comes to an end, and the students, most of them now able to make their feathers hover at least a few inches off the desk, Brother Benedict gives a silent, contented sigh. His audit has been a resounding success. He has witnessed the birth of magic, and it was just as beautiful as he remembered. After the warm, bustling energy of the charms classroom, Brother Benedict feels a familiar, spectral urge. It is a need for space, for a sense of openness and perspective. The enclosed, comforting world of corridors and classrooms is his home, but sometimes even a ghost needs a change of scenery. He feels a gentle pull upwards, a desire to be closer to the sky he can no longer feel. He begins a long, slow, vertical drift, rising through the castle's many levels. He passes through the ceiling of the charms classroom, through a dusty, unused attic filled with forgotten furniture and sleeping bats, through the heavy oak floorboards of the divination classroom, where Professor Trelawney is in the middle of predicting a student's imminent and, as usual, highly improbable doom. He continues to rise, the stone and wood of the castle flowing past him like water, until he finally emerges into the open air at the very top of the astronomy tower. He comes to a stop on the highest battlements, a circular stone platform exposed to the elements. For a living person, this would be a place of whipping winds and dizzying heights. For Brother Benedict, it is a place of perfect, silent tranquility. He cannot feel the wind on his face, a sensation he vaguely remembers as a brisk, invigorating tingle. But he can see it. He can witness its invisible power as it moves through the world below. He is a spectator to the wind's great, silent performance. His spectral form hovers at the edge of the parapet, and he gazes out upon the vast, sprawling grounds of Hogwarts. It is a magnificent vista, a great rolling tapestry of green and gray and blue. He sees the forbidden forest, a dark, brooding mass of trees that stretches to the horizon, its canopy swaying gently in the wind like a single, great, breathing creature. He sees the Black Lake, its surface a vast, dark, obsidian mirror. He watches as the wind scuttles across the water, creating 1,000 tiny, shifting ripples, a fleeting, textured pattern that is erased as soon as it is made. He sees the whomping willow on the grounds below, standing alone on its small hill. He has a particular fondness for the violent old tree. While other plants passively accept the wind, the willow actively fights it. He watches as a particularly strong gust of wind slams into its branches, and the tree responds with a furious, thrashing tantrum, its great limbs whipping back and forth in a show of impotent rage. Benedict finds this display of grumpy, pointless defiance to be endlessly endearing. From this high vantage point, the sounds of the world below are lost to him. The world becomes a silent film, a beautiful, moving pantomime of life. His gaze drifts towards the small, rustic hut at the edge of the forest. He sees a plume of smoke rising from its chimney, a thin, gray ribbon unfurling against the sky. And in the clearing beside the hut, he can make out a small group of students. A Care of Magical Creatures class is in session. The figure of Rubeus Hagrid, the half-giant gamekeeper, looms over the students, his massive form a stark contrast to the small, timid first-years gathered around him. Benedict cannot hear Hagrid's booming voice, but he can infer the gentle nature of the lesson. He watches as Hagrid carefully reaches into his pocket and pulls out something tiny. A bowtruckle. Even from this great distance, he can see the delicate twig-like limbs of the small creature. He watches as Hagrid handles the bowtruckle with a tenderness and care that seems almost comical given his immense calloused hands. He sees him offer the creature a small woodlouse, which accepts with a delicate, graceful movement. He watches as Hagrid then allows one of the students, a small Hufflepuff girl, to gently stroke the bowtruckle's head. He feels the distant, faint glow of the girl's wonder and delight, a tiny, warm spark in the vast, open air. He finds a deep, quiet joy in observing these small, gentle moments. He has seen great battles rage across these very grounds. He has seen dark wizards and powerful aurors clash in dazzling, terrifying displays of magic. But these grand, historic events are fleeting and violent. It is these small, quiet, everyday interactions, a half-giant's gentle hand, a young girl's sense of wonder, that represent the true, enduring magic of this place. They are the constant, steady heartbeat of Hogwarts, a rhythm that has remained unchanged for centuries. His attention is then drawn by a flash of movement in the far distance. He turns his gaze towards the Quidditch pitch, a great oval stadium with 3 tall golden hoops at each end. A practice session is underway. From this immense distance, the players are tiny, brightly colored specks, swooping and diving against the backdrop of the sky. He cannot hear the roar of the wind in their ears, the thud of the bludgers, or the triumphant shouts of a scored goal. The entire spectacle is rendered completely silent, and in this silence, it becomes something else. It is not an aggressive, competitive sport. It is a beautiful, silent ballet. He watches the chasers, clad in scarlet, as they weave and pass the quaffle between them, their movements a marvel of synchronized aerial grace. He sees the beaters, powerful and stocky, swinging their bats in wide, sweeping arcs, their movements a form of brutal, percussive dance. And he watches the seekers, small and agile, circling high above the action, their eyes scanning the air for the elusive glint of the golden snitch. They are like swallows, like dragonflies, like living brushstrokes painting fleeting, graceful patterns against the canvas of the sky. He does not care who wins or loses. He has seen countless games, countless victories and defeats. The outcome is irrelevant. What he cherishes is the artistry of the flight itself, the pure, unadulterated freedom of a human being soaring through the air, untethered from the clumsy pedestrian world below. It is a sight that fills him with a gentle, wistful longing, a faint echo of the physical joy of movement that he can no longer experience. He stays there for a long time, a silent, solitary spectator on his high stone perch. The wind continues its invisible dance. The willow continues its grumpy tantrum. Hagrid continues his gentle lesson, and the distant Quidditch players continue their silent aerial ballet. The world unfolds beneath him, a rich, complex, and beautiful tapestry of life. And he, Brother Benedict, the quietest of ghosts, is perfectly content to simply watch. He needs no more than this. This grand, peaceful, and utterly silent vista is his own private, perfect piece of heaven. He is the guardian of the view, the keeper of the quiet perspective, and for a spirit who has seen it all, there is no greater calling than that. After his peaceful, airy sojourn on the astronomy tower, Brother Benedict feels a desire for contrast. He has experienced the light, the space, the open sky. Now he feels a pull towards the opposite, the deep, dark, ancient places of the castle. He descends, sinking effortlessly through the many floors, a stone dropping through still water. He passes through classrooms and common rooms, through kitchens and storage closets, until he finds himself in the dungeons. The atmosphere here is completely different. The air is heavy, still, and cold. Not the crisp, invigorating coolness of the high tower, but a deep, damp, permanent chill that seems to emanate from the very stones themselves. The light is scarce, coming only from the occasional sputtering torch held in a rusty iron sconce, its flickering flame casting long, dancing, monstrous shadows on the rough-hewn walls. There is no cheerful hum of academic magic here. There is only the low, slumbering energy of the castle's deep foundations, a magic that is ancient, powerful, and utterly indifferent to the fleeting concerns of the living. Benedict finds a strange comfort in the dungeons. They are honest. They do not pretend to be anything other than what they are, a cold, dark, and slightly menacing place. He drifts slowly down a long, narrow corridor, his translucent form almost invisible against the gray stone. And then he feels it. A sudden, dramatic shift in the atmosphere. The already cold air plummets in temperature. The dampness becomes a palpable, clinging chill, a psychic frost that seems to settle on his very essence. The air grows heavy, thick, with a feeling that is more than just cold. It is a feeling of profound, ancient, and unending sorrow. It is a despair so heavy that it has become a physical presence in the world. He knows this feeling well. This is the territory of the Bloody Baron. He stops his forward drift immediately. Out of a habit born from centuries of caution, he flattens himself against the stone wall, making his already ethereal form as thin and unobtrusive as possible. He waits, a silent, respectful observer of another ghost's private, eternal torment. He does not have to wait long. From the gloom at the far end of the corridor, a figure emerges. The Bloody Baron. He does not drift with the weightless grace of the other ghosts. He glides with a heavy, menacing purpose, as if dragged forward by the sheer weight of his own misery. His form is gaunt and terrifying, his face a mask of silent, agonized fury. His eyes are vacant, staring straight ahead, yet they seem to see everything and nothing at all. He is dressed in fine spectral robes, but they are splattered with a silvery, glistening substance that seems to shine with its own ghastly light. It is his blood, an eternal spectral stain that can never be washed away. A fine spectral chain is wrapped around him, and it rattles with a sound that is not a sound at all. It is a psychic clatter, a noise that you feel in the back of your skull, a sound of regret and rage made manifest. Brother Benedict does not greet him. No ghost ever does. To interact with the Baron is unthinkable. He is a being apart, trapped within his own personal self-inflicted hell. Sir Nicholas might try to engage him in polite conversation, and the fat friar might offer him a cheerful wave, but the Baron will glide past them as if they do not exist, his chilling aura of despair his only reply. So Benedict remains still and silent, a piece of spectral scenery, as the Baron passes by. Even without making contact, the proximity is a profound experience. As the Baron glides past his position, the wave of his misery washes over Benedict. And for a ghost, this is the closest one can come to feeling pain. It is not a physical pain, not a sharp or burning sensation. It is a deep, soul-chilling ache. Benedict feels the Baron's eternal torment as if it were his own. He feels the fiery rage of a love spurned, a rage that has not cooled in 1,000 years. He feels the crushing, soul-destroying weight of a terrible, unforgivable crime. He feels the unending, cyclical nightmare of his own death, a ghostly wound that will not close. It is a despair so pure, so concentrated, that it feels like a physical force pressing in on him, trying to extinguish his own more gentle, wistful spirit. Benedict endures it. He has felt it many times before. He holds on to the quiet, peaceful memories of his own long existence, the smell of old books, the sight of a levitating feather, the silent ballet of the Quidditch players. And he uses these gentle thoughts as a shield against the Baron's overwhelming agony. The wave of despair passes over him, and then it is gone, continuing down the corridor with the Baron, a personal storm cloud of eternal suffering. The Baron vanishes into the gloom, his rattling chains fading into a psychic echo, but the coldness remains. The corridor is left with a lingering, spectral chill, a psychic stain that will take hours to fade. The very stones seem to weep with a remembered sorrow. Benedict remains flattened against the wall for a few moments more, allowing his own, more peaceful energy to reassert itself. He feels a profound and deep pity for the Baron. It is a pity he can never express, a compassion he can never offer. The Baron is beyond help, beyond comfort. He is a prisoner of his own past, sentenced to haunt the dungeons and himself for all eternity. As the last of the chilling despair dissipates, Benedict reflects on the different qualities of their shared, unending existence. His own afterlife, he muses, is a long, slow, gentle fading. It is a quiet, contemplative existence, filled with small, simple pleasures and a gentle, wistful melancholy. He is a postscript to his own life story, a peaceful epilogue. The Baron's afterlife is something else entirely. It is not a fading, but a constant, burning agony. He is not an epilogue. He is a single, horrific chapter, being reread over and over again for all eternity. His is an active torment, a churning, violent, and unending storm of rage and regret. Benedict pushes himself away from the wall, his form coalescing back to its usual pearlescent state. He feels a renewed appreciation for his own more gentle fate. He has been granted the gift of a peaceful haunting, a quiet, observant eternity. The brief, chilling encounter with the Baron serves as a powerful, humbling reminder not to take that gift for granted. With a final, silent thought of pity for the tormented spirit, Brother Benedict turns and drifts away, seeking the relative warmth and cheer of the upper floors, leaving the cold, sad, and eternally haunted dungeons to their silence and their sorrow. Feeling the need to cleanse his spectral palate after the profound, chilling encounter with the bloody Baron, Brother Benedict seeks out a place of warmth, cheer, and purposeful activity. He drifts back towards the Great Hall, but instead of entering it, he stops directly above the spot where the Hufflepuff table would be. He then does something he has always found to be a rather delightful and novel experience. He allows himself to sink. He descends through the great, solid flagstones of the floor, the ancient stone passing through his form like a thick, cool mist. For a moment, he is suspended in a dark, earthy space of foundations and plumbing, and then he emerges quite suddenly into a completely different world. He has arrived in the Hogwarts kitchens. The change in atmosphere is immediate and absolute. It is like plunging from a cold, still lake into a warm, bubbling spring. The kitchens are a vast, cavernous room with a ceiling so high it seems to touch the floor of the great hall above. The air here is not cool and still, but warm, steamy, and alive with a vibrant, bustling energy. The centerpiece of the room is a magnificent, colossal brick fireplace, large enough to roast an entire ox, which blazes with a cheerful, roaring fire that casts a warm, flickering golden light over everything. The psychic energy here is the complete antithesis of the dungeons. It is a powerful, humming chorus of joyful, dedicated labor, a feeling of cheerful purpose and immense communal pride. This is the engine room of the castle, the warm, beating heart that keeps the entire student body fed and happy. And the room is filled with house elves, dozens, perhaps hundreds of them. They are a whirlwind of frantic, efficient activity, their small, wiry forms darting back and forth, their large, bat-like ears flapping with concentration. They are dressed not in the ragged pillowcases of abused servants, but in crisp, clean white tea towels, each one stamped with the Hogwarts crest. Benedict floats near the high vaulted ceiling, an unseen spectator to this magnificent symphony of unseen labor. He does not see their situation through a lens of servitude or oppression. From his long historical perspective, he simply sees a community of magical beings engaged in work that they clearly love, work that they perform with a level of skill, dedication, and joy that is a wonder to behold. This is not a place of drudgery. It is a place of artistry. He watches, mesmerized, as the preparations for the evening feast unfold. The magic on display here is not the precise academic magic of the classrooms. It is a more intuitive, powerful, and deeply ingrained form of magic, performed without wands or incantations. He sees a group of elves standing before a mountain of potatoes. They simply hold out their small hands, and 100 potatoes lift into the air at once, their dirty skins peeling off in long, perfect spirals before the clean white potatoes drop themselves neatly into a row of waiting pots. He sees another elf standing before a long table, waving a finger in a complex, weaving pattern. Before him, a dozen knives chop carrots, onions, and celery at lightning speed, their blades a flashing silver blur, creating perfectly diced piles of vegetables without a single wasted movement. In the center of the room, 4 massive, gleaming copper cauldrons bubble away, their contents stirred by enchanted ladles that move with a slow, hypnotic rhythm. Benedict drifts over to the baking section, and his spectral jaw, had he one, would drop in awe. He watches an elderly-looking house elf, her face a mask of serene concentration, as she orchestrates the creation of hundreds of steak and kidney pies. She simply snaps her fingers, and 100 circular tins lay themselves out on a long table. Another snap, and great sheets of pastry dough unroll themselves in midair before being neatly cut and pressed into the tins by invisible hands. A third snap, and a rich, savory filling pours itself from a great pitcher into each pie. A final triumphant snap, and the pastry lids gently float down and seal themselves perfectly onto each pie. The entire process, a masterpiece of culinary mass production, takes less than a minute. It is a display of effortless, joyful, and deeply impressive magic. The house elves are so absorbed in their tasks, so completely in their element, that they do not notice his presence at all. He is simply another part of the background hum of the kitchens, a silent, cool spot in the otherwise warm and bustling air. A few of the younger, more energetic elves zip right through him on their way to fetch more ingredients, their passage a brief, ticklish whoosh of magical energy, but they do not seem to register it. He is a ghost at the feast's creation, an unseen guest in the most cheerful, productive, and well-hidden room in the entire castle. He feels a deep and profound sense of admiration for these small, tireless creatures. They are the unsung heroes of Hogwarts. They seek no credit. They desire no praise. Their reward is the work itself, the pride they take in a perfectly roasted chicken, a flawlessly flaky pie crust, a mountain of creamy mashed potatoes. They are a community bound together by a shared purpose and a deep, abiding love for the art of cooking. He watches them for what feels like a long time, a silent, appreciative audience to their culinary ballet. He sees the camaraderie between them, the way they communicate with small gestures and shared looks, the way a younger elf will be gently corrected and shown a more efficient way to shell peas by an older, more experienced colleague. There is a harmony here, a sense of belonging and shared accomplishment that is a powerful and beautiful thing to witness. As the time for the evening feast draws near, the energy in the kitchen reaches a fever pitch. The prepared dishes, the roasts, the pies, the vegetables, the puddings, are magically loaded onto great golden platters. And then, at some unseen signal, the platters simply vanish, reappearing a moment later on the house tables in the great hall directly above. With the main course sent on its way, the elves immediately and without a moment's rest begin the frantic, joyful process of preparing the desserts. Brother Benedict gives a final, appreciative look at the scene of cheerful, organized chaos below him. His visit to the kitchens has been a resounding success. It has cleansed his spirit of the lingering chill of the dungeons,
and replaced it with a feeling of warmth, admiration, and a faint, wistful memory of the taste of a perfectly baked treacle tart. With a silent nod of thanks to the oblivious and hard-working elves, he allows himself to drift back up, passing through the stone floor and into the great hall, ready to witness the happy and noisy consumption of the magnificent feast he has just seen created.
Emerging from the warm, bustling chaos of the kitchens, Brother Benedict finds himself once again floating high amongst the candles of the great hall. The scene below him has been utterly transformed. The tense, hurried atmosphere of breakfast has been replaced by a warm, relaxed, and decidedly louder energy. This is the evening feast, the castle's great communal exhalation after a long day of lessons and labor. The enchanted ceiling, which had shown a pale, watery gray at dawn, is now a work of breathtaking, transient beauty. It perfectly mirrors the sky outside, displaying a magnificent, deepening sunset. Great, dramatic swaths of orange, pink, and deep violet are painted across the spectral sky, the colors slowly shifting and melting into one another. The thousands of floating candles seem to burn a little brighter, their golden light mingling with the warm tones of the sunset, bathing the entire hall in a soft, welcoming amber glow. The air itself feels different. It is no longer just a space, but a vessel, filled to the brim with a powerful communal feeling of relief and satisfaction. The psychic energy of the hall, which had been a jumble of anxious, tired, and excited sparks in the morning, has now settled into a deep, contented, rumbling hum. It is the feeling of a day's work completed, of homework finished, of friendships rekindled. Benedict floats lazily near the ceiling, a silent, benevolent blimp, and he lets this warm, positive energy wash over him. It is a comforting, pleasant sensation, like basking in the gentle warmth of a fire you cannot feel. It is the feeling of community, of belonging, and though he is forever an outsider, he is permitted to share in its warmth. He is a silent, unseen participant in the castle's collective contentment. From his high vantage point, he watches the intricate social tapestry of the student body unfold below him. The evening meal is a time for stories, for laughter, for the forging and testing of alliances. He drifts over the Gryffindor table, a current of loud, boisterous, and confident energy. He sees a group of fifth years roaring with laughter as one of their number recounts with much dramatic gesticulation a particularly embarrassing moment from potions class that day. He feels their shared mirth, a bright, sparkling wave of pure, uncomplicated joy. He floats over to the Slytherin table, and the energy shifts. It is quieter, more controlled, but no less intense. He observes a group of older students, their heads bent close together, their conversation a series of quiet, intense whispers. He can feel the sharp, focused energy of their ambition, the cool, calculating nature of their conversation. He watches as two of them, rivals for the same position on the Quidditch team, shoot subtle, venomous glares at each other over a platter of roast potatoes. It is a small, silent drama, a miniature war fought with narrowed eyes and tightened jaws. Benedict finds their youthful intensity to both amusing and strangely touching,
He has seen this same drama play out with different actors 1,000 times before. He knows that in a few short years, these intense rivalries and passionate friendships will seem like a distant, half-remembered dream to them. But right now, in this moment, it is the most important thing in the world, and he is honored to be its silent witness. As he watches them eat, the familiar, wistful sensation returns. The ghost's hunger. It is not a gnawing ache, not a painful emptiness. It is a gentle, permanent sense of absence, a quiet, nostalgic echo of a physical need he no longer possesses. The hall is filled with the rich, savory aromas of the feast he just saw created. The deep, comforting scent of roast chicken, the sharp, appealing smell of mint sauce, the sweet, buttery aroma of freshly baked bread. He cannot smell them, but he remembers them. Oh, he remembers them so well. He watches a young Hufflepuff boy pile his plate high with roast potatoes, his eyes wide with delight. Benedict remembers the simple, profound pleasure of a perfectly roasted potato, its skin crisp and salty, its inside soft and fluffy. He watches a Ravenclaw girl delicately slicing a piece of steak and kidney pie, the steam rising from its rich, dark gravy. He remembers the satisfying weight of a hearty meal in his stomach, the feeling of warmth and contentment spreading through his body. He drifts his attention to the desserts, which have now magically appeared on the tables, replacing the empty dinner platters. He sees trifles and jellies, chocolate eclairs, and spotted dick. But his spectral eyes are drawn, as they always are, to the treacle tart. He watches as a student cuts a generous slice, the thick, golden treacle stretching in a satisfying strand. He remembers the taste with a clarity that is almost painful. The intense, sugary sweetness, the faint, bitter undertone of the treacle, the crumbly, buttery texture of the pastry. It was his favorite. For a long, silent moment, he simply hangs in the air, lost in this vivid sensory memory. It is a bittersweet experience. He is mourning a loss, the loss of the simple, earthly pleasure of a good meal. But he is also celebrating a memory, a quiet, personal treasure that no one can ever take from him. He is a connoisseur of remembered tastes, a gourmand of the past. As the meal winds down and the students, their bellies full and their spirits high, begin to rise from the tables, Brother Benedict feels a sense of quiet closure. The day has been fed. The community has been reaffirmed. The great daily cycle of hunger and satiation has been completed once more. He watches as the students file out of the hall, their energy now a sleepy, contented hum, and he is left alone once more with the lingering echoes of their laughter and the ghostly, remembered taste of treacle tart. He is a silent guest at a perpetual feast, a feast where he can appreciate the beauty of the meal without ever having to worry about the washing up. And for a ghost of simple tastes, it is a truly satisfying arrangement. With the evening feast concluded and the students dispersing to their various common rooms, a comfortable, sleepy quiet begins to descend upon the castle. Brother Benedict, his spectral form saturated with the warm, contented energy of the great hall, decides on a slow, meandering drift towards the Gryffindor Tower.
He has always enjoyed the boisterous, cheerful atmosphere that lingers in the corridors outside their common room. He floats lazily up the grand staircase, watching with detached amusement as the last few stragglers make their way to bed. All is peaceful. All is calm. And then his serenity is utterly shattered. It is not a sound that alerts him, but a sudden violent shift in the castle's ambient energy. The gentle humming magic of the corridor is ripped apart by a gust of pure, unadulterated chaos. It is a prickly, jarring, and intensely annoying sensation, like a sudden, loud, and profoundly untalented brass band striking up a tune in the middle of a library. Benedict lets out a silent, spectral sigh. He knows this energy well. Peeves is on the prowl. He rounds a corner and sees the poltergeist in action. Peeves, a small, garishly dressed man with a wicked, cackling face, is floating upside down in the middle of the hallway, a look of manic glee on his face. He is not a ghost, not in the same way Benedict is. He is not translucent or pearlescent. He is a solid-looking physical entity, a being of pure, concentrated mischief. Benedict watches with a sense of weary resignation as Peeves unscrews the helmet of a nearby suit of armor and begins to fill it with water from a conjured, perpetually refilling bucket. The water splashes and sloshes, soaking a priceless 16th century tapestry and creating a large, treacherous puddle on the stone floor. For the living, this would be a scene of chaos and alarm. The prefects would be shouting, the students would be shrieking, and Argus Filch would be just moments away from having a full-blown aneurysm. But for Brother Benedict, it is merely an inconvenience. It is a disruptive, noisy, and frankly rather juvenile burst of energy in his otherwise peaceful home. He sees Peeves not as a menace, but as a particularly persistent fly buzzing around a quiet room. He is a force of nature, like a strong wind or a sudden, pointless rainstorm. There is no reasoning with him, no appealing to his better nature, for he has no better nature to appeal to. Benedict observes the scene for a moment longer, watching as Peeves, having filled the suit of armor to the brim, now begins to pelt passing students with water balloons that he materializes out of thin air. The students yelp and scatter, a reaction that only seems to fuel Peeves's chaotic glee. His high-pitched, cackling laughter echoes through the corridor, a sound that grates on Benedict's serene, spectral nerves. He has no desire to be a part of this. He has no interest in being pelted with spectral water balloons or being drawn into Peeves's vortex of infantile mayhem. So, with a quiet, dignified sense of spiritual superiority, he simply turns and floats directly through a solid stone wall, leaving the noise and the chaos behind him. He emerges into a quiet, unused classroom, the distant sounds of Peeves' cackling and the students' shrieks mercifully muffled by a foot of solid granite. He hovers in the quiet darkness of the empty classroom, allowing his own more peaceful energy to settle. He reflects, as he often does, on the fundamental difference between himself and a creature like Peeves. It is a difference that lies at the very core of their spectral existences. Brother Benedict is a ghost. He is an imprint, a faint, translucent echo of a soul that once lived. His entire being is defined by memory, by the person he once was. His love for the library, his quiet, observant nature, his gentle, wistful melancholy, these are all residual fragments of his mortal life as a scholarly monk. He is a postscript to a life already lived, a fading photograph that still retains the faint outlines of the original image. He is bound by his own past, by his own nature. He could no more cause wanton chaos than a river could decide to flow uphill. It is simply not in his spiritual DNA. Peeves, on the other hand, is a poltergeist. He is not an imprint of a soul. He has no past, no memory of a mortal life. He was never a person. He is a non-human spirit of pure, undisciplined chaos. He is a natural phenomenon, a spontaneous knot of magical energy that has, for some reason, coalesced into a loud, obnoxious, and vaguely humanoid form. He is not bound by memory or regret because he has nothing to remember and nothing to regret. His entire existence is defined by the present moment, by the next opportunity to cause a disturbance, to upend an inkwell, to unscrew a chandelier. He does not act out of malice or cruelty. He acts out of his fundamental nature. To ask Peeves not to cause chaos would be like asking the rain not to be wet. It is what he is. Benedict understands this on an intellectual level. He knows that Peeves is as much a part of Hogwarts as the moving staircases or the enchanted ceiling. He is an intrinsic feature of the castle's unique, often frustrating, magical ecosystem. But that does not mean he has to like it. He finds Peeves's brand of chaos to be terribly unimaginative. It is all loud noises and physical messes. There is no subtlety, no wit. It is the lowest form of spiritual expression, and Benedict finds it deeply tiresome. He much prefers the company of the other ghosts, his fellow echoes of departed souls. He can have a silent, understanding communion with the Grey Lady, or a polite, if distant, exchange with Sir Nicholas. They are all bound by the shared experience of having once been alive, and that creates a certain level of mutual respect and understanding. Peeves shares none of this. He is other. He is a primal force of annoyance in a world of quiet, lingering memory. After a few more minutes of quiet contemplation, the distant sounds of Peeves's rampage finally die down, likely chased away by the timely arrival of the Bloody Baron, the only being in the castle whom Peeves truly fears. A fragile peace returns to the corridors. Brother Benedict decides that his tour of the upper floors is over for the night. The encounter, as brief as it was, has soured his mood. He begins to drift downwards, seeking the deep, profound, and most importantly, Peeves-free silence of the lower levels of the castle, leaving the chaos and the puddles far behind him. Having escaped the juvenile chaos of Peeves, Brother Benedict finds his desire for quiet contemplation restored. The evening is wearing on, and he knows the students will be settled in their common rooms, winding down after a long day. This is an excellent time for one of his favorite nightly rituals, a slow, silent tour of the four houses. He becomes an unseen, ethereal chaperone, a guardian of the quiet, unguarded moments that define the students' lives outside the classroom. He begins his tour, as he often does, with Hufflepuff. He drifts down to the kitchen's corridor, towards a large pile of barrels stacked in a recess in the wall. A group of older students are just arriving, and he watches as one of them taps a specific barrel in a particular rhythm. A round, secret door swings open, and the students clamber inside. Benedict, of course, does not require such a mundane entrance. He simply floats through the solid wooden staves of the barrel, emerging into the warm, welcoming glow of the Hufflepuff common room. The atmosphere in here is instantly and profoundly comforting. It is a round, earthy, hobbit-like room with a low ceiling and round windows that look out onto a view of waving grass and dandelions. The energy is warm, cheerful, and deeply good-natured. It feels like a cozy, well-loved blanket. The room is filled with squashy armchairs, cheerful flowering plants that hang from the ceiling, and the smell of warm earth and baking, a scent that is, for Benedict, a particularly pleasant memory. He drifts near the ceiling, observing the peaceful domestic scene below. He sees a group of third years gathered around a low table, helping each other with a particularly tricky herbology essay. Their conversation is a gentle murmur of mutual support and encouragement. He feels the pleasant, cooperative energy of their shared effort. In a corner, a pair of older students are engaged in a quiet, friendly game of wizard's chess. Benedict watches as a Hufflepuff queen, with a fierce but cheerful expression, soundly thrashes a Slytherin bishop, smashing him to smithereens with her stone fists before dragging him off the board. The players laugh, a warm, easy sound that fills the room with a gentle joy. He sees other students simply talking by the crackling fire, their faces bathed in its warm orange light. The Hufflepuff common room, he muses, is a place of simple, uncomplicated contentment. It is a sanctuary of kindness in a world that is often anything but. After basking in the gentle, earthy warmth of the Hufflepuffs for a while, Benedict decides to move on. He floats up, rising through the many floors of the castle. His destination, the west side of the castle, Ravenclaw Tower. He drifts through a door with a bronze eagle-shaped knocker, which is currently asking a Ravenclaw student a particularly tricky philosophical riddle. The student, a girl with a thoughtful expression, answers correctly, and the door swings open. Benedict follows her inside. The change in atmosphere is as distinct as the change between seasons. The Ravenclaw common room is a wide, circular, airy space with graceful arched windows that offer a breathtaking panoramic view of the mountains. The energy here is cool, calm, and intellectual. It is not the warm, emotional energy of Hufflepuff, but a sharp, clear, cerebral hum, like the feeling of a perfectly solved equation. The room is decorated in blue and bronze, with a magnificent domed ceiling painted with stars, and the space is filled with bookcases, telescopes, and tables covered in half-finished star charts. Benedict feels a natural affinity for this place. It reminds him of his beloved library. He observes the students here, and their activities are predictably studious. He sees a boy practicing a complex nonverbal spell, his wand moving in intricate patterns, his brow furrowed in deep concentration. He floats over to a group of students who are not talking, but are instead engaged in a silent,
communal reading session, each one lost in their own book, the only sound the soft, rhythmic turning of pages. The quiet, focused energy of their shared pursuit is a deeply calming and satisfying sensation for him. He even sees a small group engaged in a lively but respectful debate about the ethical implications of Gamp's law of elemental transfiguration. Benedict, who has always been a stickler for the rules, silently sides with the girl who argues that food is and should remain one of the 5 principal exceptions. He finds the intellectual curiosity of the Ravenclaws to be a refreshing and stimulating experience. Their minds are as open and as vast as the starry sky painted on their ceiling. Leaving the cool, cerebral calm of Ravenclaw Tower, he drifts downwards, across the castle, towards the dungeons. He sinks through the cold stone floor and emerges into the green, silvery light of the Slytherin common room. This place is, yet again, a world unto itself. The room is a long, low, dungeon-like chamber situated underneath the Black Lake. The light that filters through the windows is a wavering, aquatic green, casting eerie, shifting patterns on the stone walls. The energy here is a low, intense, and ambitious hum. It is a feeling of coiled power, of whispered secrets, and carefully guarded plans. Benedict feels a familiar chill in the air here, a faint echo of the despair that haunts the Baron, who is the house's patron ghost. He watches the Slytherin students, and he sees their nature reflected in their evening pursuits. He sees a group of older students huddled around a table, their heads bent over a copy of the Daily Prophet. Their conversation a low, conspiratorial murmur about the latest political maneuverings at the Ministry of Magic. He feels the sharp, cutting edge of their ambition, their desire for power and influence. In a dark, shadowy corner, he sees a student practicing a rather nasty-looking hex on a small, levitating spider, a cruel, unpleasant smile on his face. Benedict feels a faint, unpleasant prickle of dark magic and quickly moves away. But he also sees other things. He sees 2 girls helping each other with a particularly difficult potions assignment. Their collaboration a model of efficient, if slightly ruthless teamwork. He sees a younger boy, looking lonely and out of his depth, being quietly taken under the wing of an older prefect. There is a fierce, almost familial loyalty among the Slytherins, a powerful, protective instinct for their own kind. It is a more complex, more challenging environment. But Benedict understands that it is not simply a place of evil. It is a place of ambition, of cunning, and of a deep, unyielding sense of self-preservation. Finally, he completes his tour by visiting Gryffindor Tower, a place he usually avoids until Peeves has well and truly settled down for the night. He floats through the portrait of the Fat Lady and finds himself in the cozy, slightly messy, and very loud Gryffindor common room. It is a round, welcoming room, filled with squashy armchairs and decorated in a riot of scarlet and gold. The energy here is loud, confident, and boisterously cheerful. He watches as a game of exploding snap goes spectacularly wrong, resulting in a small, contained explosion that singes the eyebrows of one of the players. He sees another group attempting to bewitch a set of knitting needles to knit a Gryffindor scarf by themselves. with decidedly mixed results. It is a place of cheerful, chaotic, and sometimes reckless energy. It is a place of bravery, of daring, and of a deep and abiding love for a good, loud, and slightly dangerous time. His tour complete, Brother Benedict drifts out of the common room, leaving the four houses to their private, nocturnal lives. He has been a privileged, unseen guest at the heart of each of them. He has felt their unique energies, observed their quiet, unguarded moments, and witnessed the small human dramas that unfold by their firesides. He is the keeper of their secrets, the guardian of their quiet moments, the silent, spectral chaperone of Hogwarts. And as the last of the common room lights are extinguished, he feels a sense of quiet satisfaction, his duty for the night now done.
As the last of the common room fires die down to glowing, sleepy embers, a deep and profound quiet settles over Hogwarts Castle. The boisterous energy of the day, the cheerful hum of the evening, all of it dissolves into the vast, echoing silence of the deep night. The castle, finally free from the demands of its living inhabitants, can now simply be. This is the time that truly belongs to the ghosts. It is during these quiet, untroubled hours that the spectral residents of the castle emerge from their various hiding places and alcoves to begin their nightly patrol. It is not a patrol with a purpose or a destination. It is a slow, aimless, and utterly silent wandering, a nightly ritual of shared, eternal loneliness. Brother Benedict leaves the relative comfort of a dusty, forgotten storeroom and joins this silent procession. He drifts out into a long, moonlit corridor on the 7th floor, the silver light from the high arched windows painting eerie, beautiful patterns on the stone floor. The air is cool and still, and the only sound is the faint, almost imperceptible hum of the castle's ancient, slumbering magic. He is not alone. In the distance, he sees another spectral form gliding slowly towards him. It is the Grey Lady, the ghost of Ravenclaw House. She is a tall, graceful figure, her form radiating a gentle, sorrowful beauty. Her long hair flows behind her as if she is underwater, and her expression is one of permanent, wistful melancholy. As they draw closer, Benedict offers her a slow, respectful, and entirely silent nod. The Grey Lady, her sad eyes meeting his for a fleeting moment, returns the gesture, a slight, graceful inclination of her head. No words are exchanged. There is nothing left to say. They have known each other for the better part of a millennium. They have exhausted every possible topic of conversation several centuries ago. They know each other's stories, each other's regrets, each other's eternal sorrows. Their relationship has moved beyond the clumsy, imprecise medium of language. Their shared presence in the silent, moonlit corridor is its own form of communication. It is a quiet, mutual acknowledgement of their shared fate, a silent companionship that is as deep and as old as the castle itself. She glides past him, a whisper of ancient sadness, and continues her lonely, aimless journey. Benedict watches her go, feeling a quiet, profound sense of camaraderie. It is comforting, in a strange, spectral way, to know that he is not the only one condemned to this eternal silent wandering. A few corridors later, he hears a faint, cheerful humming and the sound of rattling chains. He knows at once that it is the Fat Friar, the jovial ghost of Hufflepuff House. The friar is a stout, rosy-cheeked, or at least formerly rosy-cheeked, spirit who still seems to be enjoying his afterlife with a cheerful, undiminished gusto. He spots Benedict and gives him a hearty, booming wave. "A fine evening for a float, is it not, brother?" he bellows, his voice echoing slightly in the empty hallway. Benedict, who prefers the silence, simply smiles and nods in agreement. He appreciates the friar's good nature, even if he does find his constant cheerfulness to be a little taxing at times. They drift alongside each other for a few moments, the friar recounting a rather uninteresting story about a Hufflepuff student who managed to grow a prize-winning bouncing bulb. Benedict listens politely, offering the occasional encouraging nod, before making a quiet, graceful excuse and drifting off down a different corridor, leaving the friar to continue his cheerful, one-sided conversations with the portraits. This is the nightly patrol, a series of these brief, silent or near-silent encounters, a quiet reaffirmation of their strange, spectral community. They are a collection of lonely, disparate souls bound together by the walls of their shared, eternal home. But the ghosts are not the only ones who patrol the castle during these quiet hours. There is another, far more solid and infinitely more irritable presence that stalks these halls. Benedict feels it before he sees it. A prickly, grumpy, and deeply resentful energy, a psychic aura of perpetual annoyance. It is the unmistakable presence of Argus Filch, the castle's caretaker. Benedict pauses his drift, hovering near the ceiling of a fourth-floor corridor, and watches as Filch appears at the far end, holding a sputtering lantern aloft. The lantern casts a weak, oily yellow light, which only seems to accentuate the sour, bitter expression permanently etched onto Filch's face. He shuffles along, his shoulders stooped, his jowly face contorted in a permanent sneer. He is muttering to himself, complaining about muddy footprints, about misaligned suits of armor, about the general ungrateful nature of the castle's student body. And at his heels, moving with a silent, slinking grace, is his cat, Mrs. Norris. The cat, a scrawny, dust-colored creature with bulging lamp-like eyes, is, in Benedict's opinion, even more unpleasant than her owner. She patrols with a sense of self-important authority, her eyes scanning the shadows for any sign of rule-breaking. Benedict finds the entire spectacle to be quaintly, almost touchingly amusing. He watches Filch, a man consumed by the most trivial earth-bound concerns, while Benedict contemplates the nature of eternity and the weight of 1,000 years of history. Filch is obsessed with the proper application of scouring powder and the location of his bucket of frog spawn soap. While Benedict communes with the silent, ancient magic of the castle, Filch is at war with a particularly stubborn patch of mildew in the dungeons. It is a wonderful, grounding counterpoint to his own more lofty, ethereal concerns. Filch represents the mundane, the practical, the eternal, unwinnable struggle against dirt and disorder. He is, in his own way, as much a fixture of the castle as any ghost. Benedict watches as Mrs. Norris suddenly stops, her tail stiffening, her glowing eyes fixed on a spot down a side corridor. She lets out a low, accusatory meow. Filch immediately shuffles over, his eyes gleaming with a hopeful malice. "Aha," he wheezes. "What have we got here, my sweet? A little thirsty out of bed, is it?" They disappear down the corridor, the light from their lantern fading, their combined aura of grumpy suspicion slowly dissipating. Benedict knows that they will find nothing. The faint magical trace they detected was likely just the lingering energy from Peeves' earlier rampage. But it doesn't matter. The hunt is the thing. The nightly patrol for Filch is not about maintaining order. It is about the faint, delicious possibility of catching someone in the act, a hope that is almost always disappointed, but never entirely extinguished. With a faint, spectral chuckle, Benedict decides to move on. He has no desire to cross paths with the caretaker. While Filch cannot harm him, his constant low-grade grumbling has a tendency to sour the peaceful atmosphere of the night. So, with a simple act of will, Benedict rises, passing effortlessly through the stone ceiling and into the corridor above, leaving the world of muddy footprints and grumpy caretakers far below. He is a creature of stone and air, and their petty, floor-bound concerns are quite literally beneath him. The night is deep, the castle is quiet, and his aimless, peaceful patrol is far from over. The quiet hours of the nightly patrol eventually bleed into the deep night. This is the time between roughly 3 and 5 in the morning, a period of profound and absolute stillness. The last embers in the common room fireplaces have finally winked out, leaving behind only the faintest, ghostly scent of wood smoke. The last professor, likely Slughorn returning from a late-night social engagement, has finally found his way to his chambers. Even the eternally vigilant Argus Filch has retired to his small, cheerless office for a brief, grumbling nap. The castle is now, at long last, truly asleep. This is Brother Benedict's favorite time. The restless, chaotic energy of the living has receded completely, and the castle is left to its own devices. The silence is no longer just an absence of noise. It is a presence in itself, a deep, heavy, and ancient stillness that fills every corridor and classroom. It is during these hours that he can truly feel the castle's soul. The constant, low-level hum of the ambient magic, usually just a background noise, now becomes the dominant sensation. It is a deep, resonant, and incredibly complex frequency, a symphony of 1,000 years of accumulated spells, emotions, and memories. Now is the time for his most personal and profound explorations. He begins by drifting downwards, sinking through the floors of the castle until he is once again in the deep dungeons. But he goes further this time, past the slithering common room, past the potions classroom, to a level that is not on any known map, a place of raw, unfinished stone and eternal darkness. Here, the magic feels different. It is not the refined academic magic of the upper floors. It is something older, wilder, and more elemental. He can feel the cold, ancient magic of the castle's foundations slumbering in the rock around him, a raw, untamed power that predates even the founders themselves. It is the magic of the very earth upon which Hogwarts was built, a deep, slow, geological consciousness that dreams of stone and time. He floats through this ancient sleeping power, feeling humbled by its immense, indifferent age. He is a mere 600 years old, a fleeting, transient mayfly in comparison. The experience is not frightening, it is deeply calming, a reminder of his own relative insignificance in the grand, eternal scheme of things. From the deepest foundations, he feels a pull towards the highest spires. He begins a long, slow ascent, rising like a silent, spectral bubble through the sleeping castle. He does not rush. He savors the journey, passing through the different layers of the castle's slumbering consciousness. He floats through the empty kitchens, now silent and still, the only movement the gentle, magical rising of the bread dough for the morning's breakfast. He passes through the great hall, a vast, dark cavern, lit only by the faint, silvery light of the enchanted, star-filled ceiling. He rises higher, through the quiet, dreaming common rooms, through the empty, silent classrooms. Finally, he emerges at the top of the West Tower, home of the Owlry. He drifts inside and is greeted by a soft, warm, feathered silence. The hundreds of owls that create such a chaotic, noisy spectacle during the morning post are now asleep. He sees them perched on the rafters, their heads tucked under their wings, their forms little more than soft, round, feathery balls. He sees great horned owls, snowy owls, tiny scops owls, all sharing the same space in a peaceful, nocturnal truce. The air is thick with the pleasant, musky scent of feathers and sleeping birds. He floats among them, a silent, benevolent guardian of their slumber. He finds their simple, animal contentment to be a deeply peaceful and reassuring presence. From the Owlery, he continues his aimless, meditative drift. He floats past the hospital wing, its beds all thankfully empty, the air clean and still. He glides down the corridor on the 7th floor, the same corridor he patrolled earlier, but it feels different now in the deep silence of the night. As he passes a particular stretch of blank stone wall, he feels a strange, familiar, and utterly unique sensation. It is the room of requirement. Even when it is not in use, the room has a presence. It is a quiet, powerful hum of pure, concentrated potential. He can feel the strange, shifting, unknowable magic that resides within that wall, a magic that is constantly reconfiguring itself, waiting for a need to arise. He has, on occasion, seen the door to the room appear out of the blank stone, and he has drifted inside to observe its strange and wonderful manifestations. He has seen it become a dueling club, a storage room for forbidden artifacts, a cozy fire-lit sanctuary for a homesick student. The room is a mystery, a paradox, a place that is both everywhere and nowhere at once. It is, he thinks, the very heart of the castle's magic, a power that exists solely to provide whatever is needed, whenever it is needed most. It is the physical embodiment of the castle's deep, abiding, and protective love for its students. And as he hangs there, bathing in the quiet, potential-filled energy of the hidden room, he begins to meditate on the nature of time. He has seen so much. He has been here for more than 20 generations of students. He has seen them arrive as small, nervous, wide-eyed first years. He has watched them grow, learn, fall in love, fight, laugh, and cry. And he has seen them leave as confident, capable, and world-weary 17-year-olds. They are like waves on a great, endless ocean. Each generation is a new wave, crashing onto the shores of the castle with a rush of energy and excitement, reshaping the landscape in small, subtle ways. And then, just as quickly, they recede, pulling back into the great, unknown sea of the world beyond, leaving behind only the faintest of memories. A name carved into a desk, a faded photograph in a yearbook. And he, Brother Benedict, is the shore. He is the unchanging stone, the permanent, silent witness to this endless, beautiful, and heartbreaking cycle. He is here for every wave. He feels their impact. He is shaped by their energy, but he remains. There is a deep, profound melancholy in this realization. He is a lonely figure, forever watching a parade of life that he can no longer be a part of. He is a museum of memories, a curator of lives that have long since ended. But there is also a strange and profound peace in it. He is a constant. He is a part of the castle's eternal soul. He provides a sense of continuity, a silent link between the past, the present, and the future. He is a guardian of the story of Hogwarts itself. And as the first faint, silvery hints of pre-dawn magic begin to hum in the air, signaling the slow, inevitable end of the deep night, he feels not sadness, but a sense of quiet, solemn purpose. The tide is turning, a new wave is coming, and he will be here to watch it break. The deep night, for all its profound and timeless stillness, cannot last forever. Just as the tide must turn, the soul of the castle must eventually begin its slow inhalation, gathering its strength for the coming day. Brother Benedict feels this subtle shift with an intimacy born of immense familiarity. The deep, resonant hum of the ancient magic, which had been so clear and powerful just an hour before, begins to quiet down. The sharp, clear notes of the castle's sleeping consciousness begin to blur and soften at the edges. The great magical engine is beginning to power down for its final, deepest moments of rest. And as the castle's energy wanes, so does his own. The ambient magic of his home is what sustains him, what gives his spectral form its cohesion and his consciousness its focus. As this energy thins, he feels a corresponding thinning in himself. It is not a feeling of tiredness, not in the physical, muscle-aching way he remembers from his mortal life, A ghost does not get tired. But his focus, his sense of a distinct, individual self, begins to recede. His thoughts, which had been so clear and contemplative during his deep night wanderings, become slower, more fragmented. They lose their sharp edges, melting into feelings and impressions rather than coherent ideas. The memories of the day, the levitating feather, the Quidditch players, the sad eyes of the Grey Lady, begin to fade, not into nothingness, but back into the great collective memory of the castle itself. He knows it is time for his own form of rest. He begins a slow final drift, his movements now less directed, more like a piece of downy fluff carried on a gentle, invisible current. He is drawn, as he always is at this time, to his favorite spot in the entire castle. It is not a grand or important place. It is a small, empty, and entirely unremarkable alcove in a quiet, seldom used corridor just outside the library. The alcove is deep, dark, and covered in a thick, velvety layer of ancient dust that the house elves, for some reason, always seem to miss. But the stone here is special. It is part of one of the oldest sections of the castle, a great solid block of granite that was laid down by the founders themselves. The magic in this stone is deep, calm, and incredibly peaceful. It is a place of profound and eternal stillness. He drifts into this small dark space, his familiar home within a home. The darkness here is a comfort, a thick, soft blanket that seems to muffle the last lingering echoes of the waking world. He settles in, his spectral form hovering a few inches off the floor, and he begins the process of letting go. This is his version of sleep. It is not an unconscious state, but a kind of willed dissolution, a temporary surrender of his individuality. His form, which is usually a faint but distinct pearlescent white, begins to grow more and more translucent. The faint outline of his monk's robes, the suggestion of his face, all of it begins to blur, to lose its definition. He is becoming a part of the background, a faint shimmer in the air, almost indistinguishable from the moonlight filtering in from a distant window. His consciousness follows suit. He lets go of the thoughts of I and me. He stops being Brother Benedict, the observer, the archivist, the lonely, wistful ghost. He simply is. He dissolves into the background hum of the castle. He becomes a single, quiet, harmonious note in its eternal, silent song. He is the coolness in the stone, the faint echo in the corridor, the memory of silence in the library. He is at peace. There is no sense of time here, no past, no future. There is only a deep, unending, and profoundly restful present. He is one with the soul of his beloved home, his consciousness spread thin, a part of the very air, the very stone, the very magic of Hogwarts itself. He is not gone. He is simply resting, waiting. And he will wait in this state of peaceful, thoughtless dissolution for as long as the deep night lasts. He will wait through the final moments of absolute stillness. He will wait as the last of the starlight on the enchanted ceiling of the great hall finally fades. But he knows, with a certainty that exists beyond thought, that this peace is not permanent. It is a pause, not an ending. The cycle is absolute, and the cycle will begin again. Soon, the first faint, silvery tendrils of pre-dawn magic will begin to hum through the castle walls. A gentle, ethereal alarm clock. The castle will take its first deep, collective breath, and the ambient energy will begin to rise. And as it rises, it will gather him back together. His consciousness will slowly coalesce. His form will gradually regain its faint, pearlescent glow. And Brother Benedict will once again become a distinct, individual entity. His final thought before he fades completely into the stone is not a thought at all, but a feeling. It is a sense of deep, profound, and peaceful anticipation. It is the feeling of a musician waiting in the silent wings for the curtain to rise, knowing that the symphony is about to begin anew. He does not dread the coming day. He does not hope for it. He simply accepts it. The dripping sound will return, though it is the sound of a leaky gargoyle and not a cavern roof. The hunger will return, though it is the hunger of 1,000 students and not his own. And the roar of the bellower will be replaced by the chiming of the great clock tower. But the summons to begin the day will be just as absolute. He did not thrive. He did not achieve. He did not conquer. He simply observed. He witnessed another day in the life of his eternal, magical home. And tomorrow he will do it all again. And as our story ends, we leave him there, a quiet, peaceful, and almost imperceptible presence in his dusty alcove, dissolving into the silence, waiting for the first stirrings of light and magic to call him back to his long, lonely, and beautiful duty. The soothing musical theme slowly fades back in, a gentle, ethereal melody. Thank you for joining me on this quiet journey tonight. I hope it has brought you a measure of peace. May your own rest be deep and dreamless. Good night.